Are y'all tired of those crazy wavy cuts on your lumber? Man, that's aggravating. We're going to go through 5 very important things that you cannot look past to ensure good, clean, proper cut. And when those 5 things are set up just right on your mill, you can cut much faster. I'm going to pull y'all in here a little bit closer and y'all can see what I'm talking about to ensure all this is done on your mill to make those good, clean, fast, reliable cuts every time. Y'all come on in here with me and I'll show you what I'm talking about. First thing I want to talk about is blade alignment. And that starts right here on these roller guides. You got one, which is your movable, and your opposite side is your stationary side. I have the Timber King, but no matter your mill, you have those roller guides. That adjusts your blade this way, that way, down pressure, all that stuff matters. You have to have 3 tools that ensures that your blade alignment is done correctly. Your first tool would be, of course, the blade alignment tool. And that is this tool right here. This one particularly is from Cook's Saw. Clamp this on your blade. Put that and make sure it's in the gullet. Your next tool would be any kind of good straight edge. I like to use my 4-foot level. Put it on here, and then you need a good something to measure with. Don't just use any old tape measure. The end moves and all that stuff. I like to use a square, like a framing square, or they even make the smaller ones. Your measurements are way more accurate that way. Proper blade alignment is very crucial. It allows your blade to cut smooth. It allows your blade to cut fast, and allows your blade to cut straight. Proper alignment also helps that blade to remove all the sawdust out of your cut. If you don't, you'll experience sawdust packing. And that sawdust packing will drive your blade, make it do all sorts of things. And that sawdust packing also create extra heat on your blade. Proper blade alignment, your blade should be cool all the time. That blade heats up and of course creates that steam off of that side. So if you're seeing that, that's a telltale sign your blade may be improperly aligned. A very dull blade will also create that steam. With that blade adjustment brings me to number 2. And that is, once your blade is aligned, and I've experienced this, make sure all your adjustment bolts, nuts, screws, set screws, everything that you have touched is tight as you can get them without messing anything up. Let's get in here and I'll show you all the adjustments on the Timber King mill that I have. This bolt right here, it pushes your block down, which adjusts your guide rollers. That one right here adjusts your down force and your offset, which is a 1/4 inch on this mill, and should be for most mills, at least a 1/4 inch. Once that's done, you have another right here. I don't know if you can see that too. There you go. This one runs through. That secures this block so it does not move. You have 2 here, 2 here, 2 on the bottom, 2 on this side, right here. You have all 8 of those bolts on both of these guide rollers. That's a lot of moving parts. Those all need to be secure. After so many hours of cutting or a long day of cutting, just go by and check them all. I have had these back off and cause my blade to get out of adjustment. Very, very, very important that those are checked and ensured that your blade does not get out of alignment, which can cause a lot of headaches and bad attitudes later on down the road. I've been known to throw a few temper tantrums. Ensure all those are tight as you can get them without messing anything up. Here's another one that I often overlooked, but I have found loose adjustments on this one also. Come check this out. This long rod right here. This allows you to pull this guide roller to cut wide or get it small, depending on the size of the log you're cutting, to stabilize that blade a whole lot better. Well, if you look, here's the bolt back here that holds this plate up. You also have 4 adjustments here, 4 bolts here. You have the adjustment screw back here, and you have the adjustment screw back here. Guys, I can't stress enough to walk through your mill every now and then. with a wrench, tighten all these adjustments up. Make sure they're secure and tight to keep that blade properly aligned. With that being said, this takes you on to number 3. That is your blade tension. I run between 12 and 1300 psi. That's what I like on my mill. Does a fantastic job for me. But one thing you got to pay attention to when you are tightening that blade up, especially on this Timber King mill, is don't get spring bound. See this spring? When I run it up, that's where I like my blade. It's about 1300 psi. That spring still has plenty of room to move. The reason why you need that spring to move, say if you hit a knot, get some kind of extra tension and pressure on it, if that spring cannot move and allow that blade to move and flex a little bit, you will bust your blades. Of course, throw money down the drain. You don't want to get spring bound. They do have a kit, which I have right here. It's a double spring kit. If I want to run a whole lot higher tension, I will and can put that on there to run that blade 1500 plus, which I haven't had to use it. Just check with your mill manufacturer and see what their recommended poundage is. There's 2 things to look at with blade tension. If you're too tight, you're going to prematurely bust those bands. We don't want that. If it's too low and do all sorts of crazy junk, you don't want that. So try to find that sweet spot that you like and your mill likes, the wood you're cutting likes, and stick with it and make that straight lumber. With that being said, carries us on to number 4. Your blade sharpness. A sharp blade is gonna cut best. You're gonna be able to cut the fastest. Whether you have a brand new blade out the box or a fresh sharpened blade, both of those will have the correct set and sharpness. A good fresh sharp blade, it's gonna cut smooth, expel the sawdust great. My tip on that is do not try to run that blade entirely too long and put unnecessary stress on that blade. All that unnecessary stress by trying to push that blade through that wood, so to speak, will cause that blade to prematurely crack and bust. We don't want that. That's throwing money away. We need to make that blade last as long as we can. So make sure you're getting your cuts, all the wood you want out of that blade without stressing that blade. If you see it start getting dull, just change it. Save yourself some time. You can tell that blade's getting dull. Your sawdust will continue getting finer and finer and start blowing around in the wind a whole lot more. But now that your blade's straight and aligned, everything's tight, your blade is sharp, you're ready to cut, you have the proper blade tension, everything's good, that takes us to number 5, which will be what is in your lube tank. And yes, I said lube. It's not a coolant. There's plenty moisture in that log to keep that blade cool. The purpose of that blade lube is to keep pitch from sticking to your blades. It'll shove that blade down or shove it up. You don't want that. You have to have the proper blade lube. Me, personally, I believe diesel fuel is the best. You do not need a whole bunch of it. And with this wiper system I have, that wiper system puts very little diesel fuel on that blade, which very little is in the wood. But it does not allow any pitch to stick to that blade. If you run too much lube, you can cause, especially people running water and soap, that's what I used to run in the beginning. Did good for me, but it gets that sawdust very wet, and it'll lead to all this being full of wet, nasty sawdust. This will pack up. Your exhaust box over there, that'll pack up. It can cause sawdust packing. It leads to a lot of unnecessary stuff by running way too much lube. Try to get it dialed in. There's a fine line. You don't want to run too much for sawdust packing in the wood and everywhere else. And number 2, you don't want to run too little because you will have a lot of pitch build up on your blade. I mostly cut pine. I'm down here in South Mississippi. That's just what we have most of. diesel fuel by far is the best for me. It takes very little to do the job and do it very well. Another thing diesel fuel does is it takes better care of your blades, and it coats your blades, keep your blades from rusting more, makes your blades last a little longer. That's another plus of running that diesel fuel. So if you haven't tried diesel, give it a whirl, see what you like. But that would be my recommendation. And running diesel fuel, if you're going to run it, you need to try these wiper systems out. Well, I hope this helps somebody out to help y'all get those straight cuts, to help y'all ensure those straight cuts. And if y'all having any other kind of issues and problems like that, comment below. And if I can help you out, I will do the best I can to point you in the right direction. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that thumbs up. It helps the channel out a whole lot. And hey, trying to build a little community, a little family here. And I hope y'all can join in and let's cut some nice wood. God bless. Y'all come back, you hear?